All right, hi everybody. My name is Joel Ownby. We're going to talk about mapping and local advertising, and it's kind of a far-reaching topic. It's really early in this game, but some really cool stuff has happened, like over the last year and a half, that we noticed, and we started building some software. And from personal experience, I had a few things that we kind of did that were really cool. So we'll talk about that, and we'll start with some background stuff. So, over the last year or so, Google lowered their Maps API pricing, which is, kind of from the outside looking in. If you don't know what you're looking for, not that big a deal. But as a developer and somebody who's in this business, it was a big deal to us because it was pretty cost prohibitive to develop applications to deploy, let's say, as a mobile device, right? Because all the API calls were they were just too expensive. So that's a big deal. What they're saying is we're opening the doors and we're going to let you come in and make this stuff a lot cheaper. So shortly after they did that, that's kind of a writing on the wall. Apple launches their native mapping solution and blocks Google Maps on the device. And that's Apple ripping the Band-Aid off and saying, we're going to force you onto this platform. You would think that it would be a little better in terms of functionality than it was, but it wasn't. It was broken. Nevertheless, they pushed their people into it. And Nokia signed a deal with Oracle for the Nokia Location Platform. And that's an enterprise-level solution designed to develop mapping applications and tracking applications for enterprise-level solutions. Trucking fleets, airplanes, fleets of airplanes, things of that nature, right? So I started out in this stuff when I was like 16. I don't know if anybody in here knows what a MUD is, but a MUD is an old game, and it's a text interactive game, and it's one of those games where you walk in and you type into your screen and it says, you walk into a room, the room is dark. You say, light a fire. You cannot light a fire. And you basically type things in until it works, right? And that was really before the World Wide Web. We used bulletin board systems there, or BBSs. So I started writing BBSs when I was like 17. And those were, kind of the precursors to forums and discussion boards and things, right? I had the, DOS before Windows, and I actually participated in writing one of the first 3D flight simulators called Corncob 3D when I was like 17, I think. Then I built auction site networks, started a company called Cybertronics, where I'm from in Edmond, Oklahoma, and we did development, design, applications, implementations, things of that nature. Made a lot of mistakes in that thing, sold it off for a little more than I put into it, and kind of just walked away because it had grown into a beast. Then I took a job with a guy named Joel Com. Some of you might be familiar with him. He owns a company called Infomedia in Fort Collins, Colorado. And we got to do some really cool things there. We built the first cross-platform multiplayer gaming systems for mobile devices. That was really cool, right? So you could play the same game on an Android device, an iPhone, a BlackBerry, whatever. So if I wanted to load up the game, I could play it with my friend, cross-platform. So you could have 5 people on different mobile devices in the same game. We also did a little thing called Ifar, which is kind of what we were commonly known for, which is funny because we wrote really cool software, but it was kind of a cultural thing. That application sold 35,000 units a day through 2008. So it made a little bit of money. I'm at Interface now. Interface is a holdings company in New York. They hold mostly talent and entertainment brands, and we run all of their marketing. We started Otriad Marketing this year. It was an internal division of Interface Holdings. We spun it out as a digital agency, and we're in New York as a full-service digital agency. So Otriad, we focus on performance-driven campaigns. And what that means is we don't do a lot of branding. We don't we'll take branding as an auxiliary benefit of a campaign, but if you can't perform, we don't want it because it helps us justify your spend and our jobs, right? Long-term partnerships, that's what we focus on. We're a full-service shop, so we have in-house developers, mobile, application guys, design, search, display, all the above. We have built a really cool team there over, guys that I've worked with over the course of 15 years or so. That's the number one thing for us. We have incubation initiatives, so anybody out there who's doing any real cool stuff, like if you guys have any cool software you're working on, any new startup stuff, I'd love to talk to you. We're in Manhattan, and we're fully funded. So, with that stuff out of the way, this is how this mapping experience started for me, right? So, this is my speakeasy experience. I moved to New York from Colorado, and my girlfriend wanted to do a speakeasy crawl, right? So in Manhattan, they have all these different little kinds of speakeasies, and they're like secret entrances, back doors, like passwords you've got to use. Some of them have phone booths like inside the place where you've got to walk in, dial a certain number, then a little thing opens up and you got to talk to them. But I had no idea where all this stuff was. So, I got together with a lot of the people that I know that work in New York, and we put together a Google Maps overlay, which is basically just like an overlay on top of the Google Maps where you drop pins and descriptions and stuff of all these places, and the descriptions had how to get in and what the passwords were and where these places were. And so we used that for the crawl, right? So we could walk around. I had it loaded on my phone. We could walk around and go to all these different places. We had the passwords and the secret locations and everything. So, after that, I had several people ask me, well, where are these speakeasies, right? Like, we want to go to a speakeasy. My friends visit, people come for business. We want to go to one of these speakeasies. So I started sending this map out, right? So, we'll be at a happy hour and somebody say, how do you get into this place or where is this thing? So we started sending these maps. And this is an actual screenshot of the overlay that we made. So if you look at it, it's basically just a map of Manhattan with little descriptions and phone numbers and all the different stuff. So you could actually click on one of these little pins and see exactly how to get in, phone number, whatever you needed. And I would go to barbecues. We'd be, at after work stuff, wherever we were, and people would ask for this map, right? So I started sending it. I probably literally, over the course of a couple months, sent it 35 times. And I'm like, wow, there kind of has to be, something to that. So here's Tony's little graphic of me sending it around. So yeah, so we send it around. Everybody keeps asking for it, So I sat down with my team one day and I decided to ask everybody, why is this happening? This is a need. Something's going on here. And when we started talking about it, this came up. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with fabric computing or unified computing. It's most commonly referenced in server architecture stuff these days. But I first started talking about it with a professor when I was in college. And the idea there was, at some point in the indefinite future, we will all have a single mobile device that interfaces with every peripheral around us. We won't have, for example, a desktop computer, a mobile device, a laptop. Your mobile device will do all the computing. You'll sit down at your desk. You'll just be able to use your keyboard. Your monitor will turn on. You'll walk into your house. Your refrigerator will tell your mobile device that you need milk. You'll press the order button. Things like that. It's pretty commonly understood that that's at least the direction that we're heading, right? So that's kind of an overarching theme to this entire discussion, is that that's the way that we're going. So we kind of identified that right at the beginning as kind of the guidelines for this discussion or this thought process. And here's a graphic that kind of explains your mobile device. You're walking down the street, a store hits you, right? Says they've got something that you expressed interest in. You walk in, pull it out, it's a remote control for your TV. You go to the gym, you don't swipe anything, it's GPS loaded, you just walk in and it verifies that you're a member and you paid your stuff, right? So this is kind of the next piece in this. We've talked about, briefly unified computing, and that's kind of this overarching theme. And the next piece of this puzzle we put together was there's a paradigm shift in social purchasing. If I wanted to decide what golf clubs to buy, I would ask, I would be sitting at home and I would see Tiger Woods come on the television. And Tiger Woods would say, these are the awesome golf clubs, whatever, this new set of irons. And 5, 6, 8 years ago, I might go buy those golf clubs based on that endorsement. There's a paradigm shift now. If I want to find out what golf clubs to buy, I go post on Facebook, what golf clubs could I buy? What do you think of these irons? And my 2 friends who are like golf pros, no, you should get this, and those are the golf clubs I bought. And I do that all the time. So we've seen this paradigm shift from celebrity endorsements as a means of generating trust to social purchasing. And we're asking our friends what they trust, and we're not listening to Tiger Woods anymore. So this is a pretty cool fact, and I don't do a lot of stats, but 81% of US respondents indicated posts from their friends directly influenced their purchase decision. 80% tried new things based on friends' suggestions. So those are pretty high numbers. 23.1 million discovered new brands or products through social media. 22.5 million use social media to learn about unfamiliar brands. And 17.8 million are strongly influenced in their purchasing decisions by opinions in social media. It's probably not anything that's, well, that's not loading, right? That's not anything that's probably that surprising, but nevertheless, it is a paradigm shift, right? So that's the next piece. The next piece that we kind of got to was the local curation model. The reason I was sending that map around is because you couldn't use Yelp or Foursquare to find that stuff out, right? GoWallet didn't work. Yelp didn't have it. If you went and you put in speakeasy in Yelp, you'll get 8,000 things that aren't really speakeasies. They're not the places that you want to go. They're not the good stuff. You have to find somebody that actually knows, that you trust, to do these things. And that means that the local curation model is broken. And when we started looking at those things, we started talking about how it's broken. And we said, for example, where I live in Forest Hills, New York, there's a sushi spot. And, we like sushi, so we're looking for the best spot. The thing's got 5 stars, but the sushi's horrible. And it has 5 stars because it's next to a high school, and it's like super cheap. So all these high school kids go there, leave all these awesome reviews, but that's not sushi that I want. Like, that doesn't work for me. Does a guy that goes to a club and gets turned away at the door for having sneakers on leave a good review for that club? Most likely not. If he leaves a review, he's unhappy. But that's still a really good club. He just couldn't get in because he has sneakers on. So, that's not a review that I'm trusting. And we started asking, right, would you pay $18 for a martini? How many people in here would pay $18 for a martini? If you went out, yeah, of course you would. That's demonstrative of what we're talking about, right? I would pay $18 for a martini. I don't drink that many martinis at a spot like that. Like, we'll go out, you go to like Rose Bar in Manhattan, I'll pay $18 for a martini for the atmosphere. We're just gonna hang out for a minute and talk, and we're gonna go somewhere else if we're really drinking. But if you go look at like the Rose Bar, which is an amazing place, it's got like 3 stars on Yelp. Oh, it's so expensive, everybody here is so pretentious. Like, it's the Rose Bar at the Gramercy. It's gonna be expensive, I don't care what you think. And that's, the next one is, a tourist from Texas likely to know what constitutes great French food in Manhattan. I'm from Texas, so I use Texas. He's probably not. If I hadn't lived in New York for a while, I would probably not be qualified, right? So there's an amazing, French restaurant in downtown, and it has horrible reviews. And if you look at it, it's all people, tourists from out of town who have no idea what's good, right? So they're all, this is so expensive, this is horrible, this sauce actually had blood in it. Yeah, it's a blood sauce, it's French. So the local curation model is, to some degree, broken. It still has its social aspects. You can check in and have fun or whatever, but that's one of the reasons I had to send that map, because you can't find that on Yelp. You can't find it on Foursquare. So they're opening the door to a degree. We talked about this stuff briefly. When you see stuff like this happening all in 2012, like kind of all responses to one thing or the other, right? Google lowered this because they knew Apple was about to lock them out. They knew Apple was about to roll that out, and they saw, the writing on the wall. Apple did obviously lock them out, and of course, when Apple released its native mapping application, they locked the Google Maps app on the iPhone, I'm sure everybody knows, in the approval process. It's total baloney. Like, it was obviously not in approval, right? But they locked it there and said that there was something wrong with it, and they had to review it further, and it stayed there off and on for a month or so. And Nokia, realizing that they don't have the distribution on the mobile devices, went after the enterprise-based solutions. It's no secret that mobile local ad revenue is going to grow. It's probably going to be the highest growth vertical over the next 5 or 6 years. So really what you have is all these different precursors over the last year or so that are all adding up to this thing that to people like me says, if I start getting in this game now, there's money in here somehow, right? So we want to start developing applications and building solutions that incorporate mapping, because right now it's all about the stronghold, the foothold, right? So we want to make maps, we want to get those eyeballs, we want to get those impressions, and we want to push people into the revenue channels that probably will be here in the next 2 or 3 years. So we have a demonstrated need, and that's me walking around sending these maps out. And I talked to several other people, and they've done very similar things because you can't find this stuff, you can't get it. Unified or fabric computing philosophy, that's an overarching theme. We know that that's the way that things are going to go, so I'm going to bet on them. We have a shift to social purchasing. Again, that's kind of obvious, but it's lining up to create this new space. And you have broken local curation models. So we want to position. So what we're doing is we're going out as an advertiser, for example, and we're building applications that drive eyeballs to mapping solutions, right? The maps are the fabric that's going to connect all of these things together. In that fabric computing philosophy, that fabric is a bunch of nodes, interconnected nodes, and maps are the fabric that connect those things together, right? So we want to drive eyeballs at those maps one way or the other. So for example, brand-related maps. If you're a fashion brand, right? You can go out there very easily build, whether it be for landing pages or internet pages, content pages, mobile applications, whatever, you can build maps that are fashion related. Like in New York, I would build a sample sale map, right? And it's just a map that sends you little pushes and hits you SMS, whatever, whenever you're close to a sample sale and notifies you. Over the next couple of years, the monetization channels for those maps will develop. Like they already kind of are. You have AdWords and AdSense that run, in Google Maps. There's not a lot of money there, but there will be soon. Piggyback on all the mapping solutions. Like we're not going to go out there and build. Nobody can build mapping software. But you can build applications that work with the big mapping softwares, right? So you can build, for example, something that creates maps that ties into the Google API, the MapQuest API, the Apple APIs, but you're not going to develop maps. It's impossible. Technology development and integration, right? So we want to go out there and we want to integrate the existing technologies that we have. If we have an existing mobile application, we want to integrate maps into that application somehow, right? And we want to start generating those eyeballs, generating those impressions. Iterative processes in development. We want to make a V1 right now. We want to go out, and if you have a content page that's about birdseed, I want to make a map on that content page that shows everywhere there's a bird store, or like somebody has spotted a bird, right? And I want to start publishing those maps. And you want to do it slowly, and you want to do it slowly over the couple of years and invest in it. Long-term commitment. The biggest mistakes I've made in my career was abandoning stuff because I got in too early. Like domain names that you registered in 1995 that were amazing and you let expire. Websites that you built in 2000 that you totally stopped developing because they weren't making any money. If I look back and I was still developing those websites, obviously they'd be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But we didn't. We walked away because they weren't making any immediate money. So this is an investment, right? You have to make that long-term commitment now to start generating impressions on maps, one way or the other, whether it's on a mobile device, whether it's on a content page, whether it's on a blog, whatever you're doing. You can drive them into whatever solution grows, whatever solution becomes the monetization channel, but you have to have the maps. You have to have that intent. If you have pages, tons of pages published over the next 2 years, those monetization models mature, You can do browser detection and push them into an app, if that's where the money is, right? Like you can do browser detection and push them to a desktop application. You can do whatever you need to if you have that intent or that impression on the maps. But the maps are big, right? They're the fabric that connects in everything. So if you don't have that intent to find a map, then you don't have anything, right? User acquisition, daily active users. That's the game, right? So when we're talking about this long-term commitment, if you publish 100 pages in the next 6 months with maps on them, if you're a content publisher, how many impressions are you going to generate for those in the next 2 years? Probably quite a bit. If they're SEO'd right. If you release a mobile application right now that has really cool niche mapping solutions in it, they're very cheap to develop. These are very simple things, right? If you release that now and you're driving content and traffic at that for the next 2 years when those channels mature, you could be in a pretty good position to make some real money. And it's not expensive to do. But again, that long-term commitment, you've got to stick with it. If you give up on it because it's not making any money right now, you're going to be in the same position everybody else was. It says, wow, if I would have got into email in 1995, I'd be a millionaire. Wow, if I would have got into mobile 5 years ago, I'd be a millionaire. Affinity Maps. So for affiliates and publishers, which probably a lot of you are, you're generating content one way or the other. You're emailing, you're building affiliate sites, you're building landing pages, whatever you're doing, you can build maps that have affinity to that target for those pages, for those devices, for something, right? And by affinity, we mean, if I'm selling business-to-business services, right? I would totally like to have a map that has every reputable business service, within 15, 20 blocks of my office. I would love to have that. I don't have that. If you're in travel, right? You can build travel maps. You can build anything for anything that you're in. It just has to have an affinity to the target. And you want to start doing that now and integrating it. Put them on your landing pages. Put them on your content sites. You can release a mobile application very cheaply. Indexing map pages. So get those pages out there and let them start indexing. Let them start, generating search results. Get them in the search results. People are Googling maps more and more, and it's going to continue to grow. So get them out there, get some age on them, and get some trust. User-generated content. You can go after your users for content for your maps. I'm integrating with my social media teams, mapping solutions for the brands and clients that we represent based on their individual clients' suggestions, right? So we're going out and we're saying, send us your 50 favorite X's, right? 50 favorite whatever places. And then we release a page with a Google Maps overlay that's the 50 top hot dog places in Manhattan, right? Or whatever it is. And then we publish that content and we mail it. We put it in social media and we put it out there and we let it index. And we're going to start betting on this stuff because it's going to be there. Mobile applications. Again, for affiliates and publishers, this stuff is cheap. You guys can release a mobile application that can mature over the next couple of years and be a real monetization channel. Leverage all of your existing channels as a publisher or as an affiliate. If you've got email, mail on these maps. Build them, put them out there, and mail on them. Drive traffic to them. If you've got mobile traffic, SMS, run text on it. Maps are awesome for text. If you've got any mobile applications, put them in there. It's worth it. For startups, entrepreneurs, right? Niche mobile apps are the best way to go. I'm doing this personally. I'm building all kinds of different niche mobile mapping applications based on different types of stuff, right? You can build restaurants. You can build them based on a specific type of restaurant. You can build them based on trust. You can say, you can play on that broken local curation model stuff and say, I want to build, a mapping application that only shows Michelin star restaurants. Things like that are great because, again, that model's broken. You can build a mapping application that shows mailboxes. There's a need for that. I was looking for a mailbox, in my neighborhood on my walk to the train. I couldn't find one, right? You could have an app with just mailboxes. There's a million different things. Bird spotting app. Apps with dry cleaners. There's a million different reasons. People love these little bitty simple things. So, there's search traffic on it, both in the distribution channels for mobile applications and on the internet. Niche mapping sites. So that's just basically web software, right? Web applications. You can build little applications that people, very easily, again, that people can come and build any map that they want. They can come in and they can build a map of their favorite sushi spots and send it, to their friends. They can come build a map of the coolest clubs, the coolest speakeasies, in Manhattan, or, their favorite surf shops in San Diego, whatever. You can build those very cheaply. The technology is not very hard to implement. Mapping web applications. So that's, sites and applications. Sites generally referring to, like, you could go grab like a Google Maps API right now, integrate with it and build overlays and just stick those in your existing content, or just build pages about those. Web apps is a little more intense, right? You're actually going to develop an application that does something outside of just the straight functionality you can get with the Google Maps overlay. We've actually built a really cool web app, and I'll show you a screenshot at the end of this thing. SaaS applications, right? Software as a service applications. There's all kinds of business applications for mapping technology right now. You can build all kinds of really cool stuff, from stuff for cab drivers to trucking fleets to shipping to all kinds of stuff. Nobody's doing this. There is no mapping SaaS service out there. The only real happening that I've heard of is the Nokia Location Platform stuff. My company is a small company. We're a marketing firm, and we have uses for mapping SaaS services. So it's out there. That's obviously pretty cost prohibitive, but it's out there. Branding is key, because right now it's so early in the game. Like, you have to have a memorable brand. If you go out there and you develop a web app, or you develop a mobile application, it's so early that, like, it's not going to pay off for like another year and a half, 2 years, right? Those monetization channels will not mature. So somebody has to remember your name. Don't go out there and register, birdfeedermapping.com. Like, that's not good, right? You have to have a real brand name. And in something like this, when you're getting in this early, it's key. And in terms of branding, regarding something like this, don't describe what you're doing. Think of a word or a combination of words that elicit a mental image or a response that describes what you're doing, right? Like, don't name the product or the mapping solution XX, maps or whatever, right? Come up with a good brand name that someone can remember, so that by the time those things mature, everybody who's come across your stuff knows what your stuff is, and they'll go back and get it when they remember it. Investments in JVs. There's people out there developing mapping software applications right now. They don't have any money. You can get in on these things very inexpensively, and team is the most important thing. It's not what they've got, although that counts. It's, do you believe in the people running it? So if you're going to go out there and you're going to try to invest or get in bed with some of the people that are building these things, look at their team. Do their developers have a proven track record? If they've got an executive in the thing, does he have past successes? And that's the most important thing. Secondly, IP, right? Like, if you're going to go out and develop something with somebody, and they're the developer, do they have good tech? Do they have really good intellectual property? Because that's what you can sell. At the end of the day, you can sell the IP. And active users. If you're going to invest in something, that's like the line between $5 and $1,000. If they have daily active users, they have a good, strong user base, then you're going to have to throw some real money. But don't ever throw real money at something that doesn't have a user base. And a lot of people do that, whether that's as an investment or something that you're building. And finally, this is an application that we built called You Follow It. And it's currently in closed beta, but it is a web application at this point with the idea that it will be built into a mobile application. And it's youfollow.it. And what this thing does is it basically recreates the experience of that Google Maps overlay that we built. So any user can come in here and they can sign up, and they can build a map for whatever they'd like to do, anything. You can drop pins, you can leave your descriptions, you can add all the pictures, you can do the phone number, the contact information, and you can allow other people to contribute to your maps. And you can follow maps, similar to stuff that you follow on Twitter or Pinterest, right? So every time there's a change to a map that you're following, you get notified, and you can come look at those changes. There is no searchable directory in this thing. There is no indexable stuff. It's purely a trust model. So we're taking advantage of that broken local curation model, and we're saying that if I want to build my speakeasy map, I don't care if anybody comes and searches for that. It's not for them. It's for the people who ask me for that map. If somebody goes and builds the 10 best sushi spots in Manhattan, like if I trust that person, I will ask them, or they'll send me the map, or they'll post it on Facebook or whatever. Nobody's going to come search for these things because that's exactly the problem. If you come search for sushi maps in somewhere, you're going to find 8,000 sushi joints that I'm going to hate. And it's going to be really impossible for me to find the right one. So we kind of took that idea, and this is what we built. If anybody has any questions, I'll shoot you a beta invite after this thing. And that's really it. So, you know, we're building all these different solutions as publishers, as affiliates, as advertisers, as agencies, and we're integrating them now to secure those eyeballs, those daily active users, because we know that those monetization channels are coming. They've already kind of been introduced. You've got AdSense in Maps now. You have MapQuest actually has local advertising that they sell that appears in their maps. So if you go out there and you build these overlays, or you tie into them with an API, there will actually be ads in a lot of the major metropolitan areas on those maps. So, you know, where AdSense was for content probably 2005, I feel like we are kind of for mapping monetization stuff, right? So when we got in the AdSense game, and Joel Comm actually wrote a book that sold, I think it did like $20 million in ebook in revenue, and it was called The Definitive Guide to Google AdSense. And those guys went from making like, you know, $50 a day to $1,500 a day over the course of 2 years. And that's because that model matured. People started integrating it. It was content driven, and it was very, very relevant. And that's what these things are. They're very, very relevant. If you're pulling a map for, you know, again, sushi spots, you're going to see an ad for a sushi spot that's very close to where you are. It's going to be right in front of your face at the time of decision, at the point that you're looking for sushi. So these advertising channels are going to mature, and they're going to be very profitable. And I hope that everybody at least gets into it and makes some type of commitment at this point, because I feel like there's a lot of money there. And that's about it. So if anybody's got any questions, we'll take them. I appreciate your time, and hopefully you all survive Vegas for 2 more days. Questions? We good? All right. Thank you very much. You guys enjoyed it.